Michael Jackson wasn't just a star, he was a phenomenon, a global cultural force, and an artist who reshaped the music world forever. Yet behind the iconic glove, the gravity-defying dance moves, and the millions of admiring fans was a life marked by mystery, pressure, and truths he never found the strength to share. For decades, the world watched his face evolve, his appearance change, and countless stories swirl around him.
Quiet heartbeat beneath the fragile crown.
People assumed everything was simply the result of cosmetic procedures until the autopsy findings uncovered details far more complicated and heartbreaking. What was really behind that transformation? What was Michael Jackson trying so hard to shield from the world's questioning eyes? And did those changes come from surgery, from medical issues, or from the overwhelming pressure of fame that few could ever understand? Today, we're diving into the revelations that stunned the world not to judge, but to better understand the extraordinary life Michael Jackson had to navigate. If you believe his story goes far beyond the rumors, drop a 1-inch the comments. If you're still unsure, leave a 0. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And now, let's uncover this story together. He lay under full anesthesia, motionless beneath the cold lights of the examination room. In truth, it was the moment that revealed all the exhaustion and vulnerability he had spent years trying to hide. In that silent space, a body weighing just under 50 kilograms reflected a reality the world had never truly seen. And then, the forensic findings uncovered something that left fans completely stunned. It was a story that left the entire world stunned. The light reflected across his face, a face he himself sometimes wasn't sure still felt like his own. He once admitted, "I am a perfectionist." Yet beneath that confidence was a quiet, persistent fear. The fear of no longer being the Michael Jackson the world expected him to be. In the late 1970 seconds, when Off the Wall catapulted him to the height of fame, Michael stepped into a new era not just in music, but within himself. People remembered the warm, brown-skinned young man with natural curls, bright round eyes, and a shy smile. But behind the spotlight was another Michael, worn out, anxious, and increasingly fixated on how he appeared on television. He once told his doctor, "Just make a small adjustment so I can look better on stage." But even the slightest change was enough for the mirror to show a different face, more distant, unfamiliar, and in many ways no longer the boy the world had adored. The tiny scars were easily covered with makeup, but to Michael, they felt like deep cuts carved into his sense of self. Every tiny feature on his face became a place where he poured his fears, the fear of judgment, the fear of comparison, the fear of being left behind, and slowly, the mirror stopped being a companion. It became a cage that trapped his spirit. Fame is a double-edged sword. It allowed Michael to reach millions, yet it also chipped away at his inner strength, piece by piece. There was a time when Michael talked about sitting alone in a completely dark recording studio, turning off every light just to listen to the sound of his own breathing. Many thought it was a moment of artistic inspiration. But in truth, it was a moment when he was trying to figure out whether he could still feel himself. He became fixated on the smallest details. The bridge of his nose needed to be slimmer, his jawline sharper, his skin tone more even. His doctors recalled how he always carried perfectly edited photos, saying, "I want to look like this. No, even better than this." Rumors swirled that he was unhappy with his skin color, but the reality was more complicated. Michael had been diagnosed with vitiligo, a condition that causes patches of skin to lose pigment. Under the stage lights, these patches became even more noticeable, a constant reminder that his body was changing in ways beyond his control. Makeup could no longer conceal it. And so he made the choice to alter his appearance, a decision that was both deeply personal and born out of desperation. that he was unhappy with his skin color, but the reality was more complicated. Michael had been diagnosed with vitiligo, a condition that causes patches of skin to lose pigment. Under the stage lights, these patches became even more noticeable, a constant reminder that his body was changing in ways beyond his control. Makeup could no longer conceal it, and so he made the choice to alter his appearance, a decision. But then, like a survival instinct, he forced a smile, convincing himself he was getting closer to the image the world expected. It was the harsh price that fame demanded from a legend. At first, he turned to cosmetic changes as a way to control his public image, a shield against constant scrutiny. Yet the more he tried to control, the more his own freedom slipped away. What began as protective tools slowly turned into chains that held him captive. To the world, he was a timeless icon. But to himself, sometimes it was a face he could never remove, a mask crafted to meet the expectations of millions. It's said that in his private room, Michael always kept a childhood photo, a reminder of who he once was. Yet with each passing day, the reflection in the mirror drifted further from that memory. Every alteration was a desperate hope to reconnect with himself, but instead, it often left him feeling even more lost. Perhaps what Michael was truly chasing wasn't a flawless face, but the freedom to simply be himself, something the stage lights had slowly taken away. Many say that some obsessions don't crush us all at once, but quietly erode us over time. For Michael, that obsession was called perfection. In a rare interview, he once said, "I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm just trying to be the best version of myself." Yet on that journey, the line between being better and becoming no longer myself slowly faded. Starting in the early 1980 seconds, Michael underwent multiple cosmetic procedures, beginning with an onstage injury and gradually evolving into a seemingly endless cycle. Doctors recalled that after each surgery, he would stand before the mirror for long moments, like an artist studying a painting he could never quite finish. "Just a little more," he would often whisper. And so, another alteration would begin. He always carried close-up photos of himself from various stages of life, marking the areas he wanted to alter. But what Michael saw in the mirror was no longer his true self. It was the weight of the world's enormous expectation. A cosmetic surgeon once reflected that Michael's greatest tragedy was being trapped in the very image he had created. There were countless rumors that he was trying to lighten his skin, but the reality was very different from what the media portrayed. Michael had been diagnosed with vitiligo, an autoimmune condition that causes uneven loss of skin pigment. Under the stage lights, the lighter and darker patches became more pronounced, forcing him to rely on specialized makeup to even out his complexion. The autopsy report after his passing confirmed this. Yet during his life, Michael endured endless cruel rumors, often being unfairly labeled a skin whitener. Those words became invisible yet persistent wounds, slowly eroding his self-esteem day by day. A close friend once recalled Michael crying while watching old videos of himself, softly whispering, "I miss that person. I don't know when he disappeared." What hurt him most wasn't the change in his appearance, but the growing sense that he could no longer recognize himself. From 1984 onward, every time Michael appeared, he amazed the public. Lighter skin, a slimmer nose, reshaped cheekbones, each change ignited a media frenzy. The press chased every photo, every rumor, treating his face as if it belonged to the world rather than to him. And the more famous he became, the deeper he withdrew into his private world. Although he lived in a sprawling mansion, Michael rarely welcomed visitors, staying connected with only a handful of close friends. In his private room, he displayed statues representing the different versions of himself throughout his career. Many said Michael saw them as the old Michael's pieces of himself he wanted to hold on to, because the world had already taken so much. A doctor who worked closely with him revealed that after every surgery, Michael needed extended pain medication not just for the physical discomfort, but also to cope with the mental strain of seeing his bandaged face, a constant reminder of changes he wasn't yet ready to accept. Some days, he would sit for hours in a dark room, listening to classical music, trying to escape and forget everything he had just endured. He once wrote in a note, "I can't stop thinking about my face changing. I fear that one day I'll wake up and not recognize the person in the mirror." The more he chased perfection, the more consumed he became by what felt incomplete. On one interview, when asked about his appearance, Michael gently replied, "I don't know who you're talking about. I don't see what you see." The interviewer took it as a lighthearted comment, but in truth, it revealed his inner reality, a man who could no longer recognize himself. Many experts later observed that these constant changes weren't just about looks. They reflected a deep disconnection with his own body, a pattern often seen in people who grow up in harsh environments where every small mistake is magnified. From an early age, Michael heard countless remarks about his appearance, especially his nose, and those words left deep, lasting marks on his heart, shaping lifelong insecurities. Once he became famous and had the means to change anything, he zeroed in on the very vulnerabilities that had once caused him pain. Ironically, each alteration only created new insecurities. Some say Michael reached his peak after Thriller. Others believe it began when vitiligo forced him to find ways to even out his skin tone. But whatever the cause, it led to one undeniable truth. Michael became increasingly trapped by the image he was trying to create. He once told a close friend, "I can't stop. If I stop, people will see that I've changed and they will leave." On the surface, it sounds simple, but beneath it lay a deep fear, the fear of being forgotten. For him, public admiration wasn't just joy. It was a lifeline that reminded him he still existed. This obsession slowly wore down both his mind and body. Every procedure left him drained. Every scar reminded him of the steep price he paid for a perfect image. Yet Michael pressed on, as if he had grown used to testing every limit. He once told a doctor, "I just want to look beautiful. I want people to be amazed when I step onto the stage." And they were amazed, just not in the way he had imagined. During a follow-up visit, the doctor gazed into his eyes and gently said, "Michael, it's time to stop." But Michael just gave a hauntingly sad smile. "I know, but I can't." That moment became one of the most honest confessions of his life. Brief, quiet, yet filled with a tragedy no words could fully capture. If this story makes you reflect, drop a 1 in the comments. If you're unsure, leave a 0 to share your perspective. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And now, let's continue exploring the next developments. Behind the dazzling image of the King of Pop was a man quietly fading away. Audiences watched him shine on stage, but no one saw the endless loneliness beneath the makeup, where the lights were never warm enough to comfort a weary heart. Michael believed that if he could just be a little more perfect, he would be loved more. Yet life was cruelly ironic. The closer he got to perfection, the further he drifted from his true self. When the shows ended, the cheers faded, and the stage lights went dark. Michael would often sit alone, flipping through old photos, pictures he had once hidden, thinking they weren't beautiful enough. Looking back, perhaps all he ever wanted was to see that face one more time. Whole, natural, and truly his own. the face of youth, of dreams not yet faded. But time never rewinds. And from that moment, the journey from the man in the mirror to the man who no longer recognized himself reached its end. Michael Jackson, the immortal icon of the 20th century, ultimately left behind one undeniable truth. Beneath the dazzling spotlight was a loneliness the world could never reach. But what the world never saw was the quiet fragility slowly taking over Michael's body as he entered the most exhausted phase of his life. Behind the dazzling performances was a body pushed beyond its limits, enduring long-lasting pain he could hardly speak of. Fans saw the stage lights and the cheers, but no one witnessed the silent battle of a body worn down by years of relentless dedication. Later, medical reports also revealed that he had to rely on certain supportive medications, usually used in hospitals to manage sleep or ease pain. Experts pointed out that long-term dependence on these drugs carried serious risks, especially for a body like Michael's, which had endured years of relentless strain and damage. When authorities revealed that his weight had dropped to an alarmingly low level, the world was shocked. A man who once radiated boundless energy on stage had become a frail figure, a clear reflection of prolonged exhaustion. His body still carried the marks of decades of treatment, silent notes in a sorrowful melody he himself had composed. One doctor from the investigative team noted that each scar seemed to tell a part of the story. Michael could never voice the story of an artist chasing perfection to the point of harming himself.